You silly, silly man. You silly, silly, negative man. You should never have left. Because now it's time for the lunatics to take over the asylum that is better known as Talk of the Trinity. All right, mate. Welcome to Talk of the Trinity. As you can see, Baz is still watching ZFC. So we needed somebody else to come and have a chat with me rather than you watching me just chatting to myself. And I thought to myself, who else can cause chaos, in the words of the great Emery Martinez? And there's only one person who can do that. It's got to be Emmy's number one fan, Dave Scott of the Irish Lions. Dave, thank you for coming on. How are you, bud?
Oh, great. Yeah, delighted to be back. I know another Irish accent on one of these Villa podcasts, so I'm sure there's going to be a certain news station that's going to be panning us on social media. But I won't go into too much of that. Yeah, I know, great to be back. Great to be back at a time when Villa are just, oh my God, when I was last on. I mean, dear Lord, where were we? We're down the other end. We're looking at a relegation battle. I think had we just brought in Emery and we're saying, oh, hopefully he'll be moving us up the table. Could not have envisaged where we are. As we record, I know teams have a game in the hands. We are fifth. We are fifth. I cannot believe it. Aston Villa, fifth.
Mate, exactly. I mean, you're bringing the enthusiasm here. I'm sure that Baz would be deadpan as ever if he was here. But fifth in the league for the first time since those O'Neill glory days, of course. And who'd have thought that all it takes is the recruitment of two Spaniards, really, in Unai Emery. And it goes without saying, he's probably becoming my favourite player since somebody else broke my heart. Alex Moreno. What a fantastic signing he has been.
And you know what? Wasn't he 4.5 million? Was it?
Yeah.
Maybe it was. Or was that his value? But it wasn't that expensive. You know, I mean, we signed Luca Dean for 23, something like that. I'm sure the people out there can correct me, but like, what a bargain! What a bargain! I'd plenty more of them, please. You know, that'd be amazing if we can get a few really decent players at cut prices, and maybe Emery's the man to do that. It's just amazing. I mean, I think we really have to just stop and say we have an elite coach. There's no question now. I've utter confidence that he's first of all, he's going to stay. Couple of links. The old Beeb trying to suggest he wants to go to Spurs or Chelsea. To be honest, here's what I say to the Beeb. Why would he want to go to Spurs in free fall? Why would he want to go to Chelsea? Crazy kind of stuff. Well done to Nassif Suarez, getting him in. From what I understand, a good deal he's on. And just the improvement. And I don't want this to be an anti-Gerrard podcast, but these are the same players that Gerrard had. You know, I thought, he's a bit unlucky. His two signings, Carlos and Kamara, injured a fair bit. Still out injured. Emery has used the same team effectively, and we've rocketed up the league. It's absolutely unbelievable. I remember the impact that Gregory had when he came in, and was it the tail end of 98? And then we brought, or 99, yeah. And we then were top of the league the next season. Or am I wrong there? 97, even that's the one. He came in 1997 and we were just couldn't be beaten, and we ended up qualifying for Europe, and then we were top of the league at Christmas. Kind of fell apart after that. And so maybe we can talk about those kind of things when it comes to next season. But yeah, I mean, well, I'm so excited. I'm in the Irish Lions here. We're all just, pinching ourselves. Everyone trying to already book tickets for next year at the slightly increased rate, it has to be said. All these things I'm sure you're going to tease out, but the excitement is palpable. It's just incredible. It's amazing. It's been so long coming, and it's here, out of nowhere.
Mate, it's a fantastic time to be a Villa. And going back to what you were saying about Steven Gerrard, I did a little bit of maths earlier. And if we had the same results under Gerrard against the teams that we played under Emery, but they were the Emery results instead, we'd have 16 extra points, which would put us in second place in the Premier League. Steven Gerrard has cost us the Premier League title this season, in my opinion.
Yeah, I know. And to be honest, I have to hands up if anyone in the Irish Lions are watching it. They may remember when we were having conversations and chatting to Paddy from the For the Love of Paul McGrath podcast, and he was fed up of Jared and wanted them out. I was one of the people saying, give him a bit more time. And the reason why I thought we should just hang on a little bit longer is because I thought we'd end up with Sean Dyche or someone of that ilk, and I didn't want to go back to there. I never in a million years thought we'd land Emery. It was unbelievable. I remember I was working on the Monday evening or Tuesday evening, whenever it was. Then I think it was a Monday when I just got a text from someone in the Nod Villa saying Emery's coming in, and I'm like, what? That's absolutely incredible. I mean, we've managed to attract, as I say, this really elite manager, and the results speak for themselves. And you know what? I don't know if I'm sure we're going to talk about the Fulham game, although there's not a huge amount to talk about. But I was watching the BT2 commentator. He actually pointed out the last time when he was over in Arsenal, everyone was slagging him off. He came over to England and tried to speak the language. He didn't do a Bielsa and have the translation with there. He tried to speak it, and we all laughed at him, and even, I'm not just saying this to you guys in England, there's lots of people over here in Ireland, there's lots of Man U fans over here all slagging off Arsenal fans for their manager. So I'm just so delighted for Emery that he's absolutely, if there's any doubts about his reputation, has to be completely restored now.
Oh, I completely agree, and it was just because he couldn't say certain words correctly, wasn't it? Because he got a Spanish accent, which, when English is your fifth language, and that's 4 more languages than I can speak. Baz would probably say it's 5 more than I can speak, to be completely honest with you. He's doing a great job in managing to come over, coach a team. Arsenal went on some ridiculous unbeaten runs as well. 22 games. They were high points tallies that they were getting at a time when Arsene Wenger, the messiah for them, had just left. I mean, in my opinion with Emery, and I think the opinion of a lot of Villa fans, is that when he came in, there wasn't exactly euphoria around him joining at first. It was a case of, okay, well, yeah, he's a very good manager. Newcastle wanted him. He's done well since he's left Arsenal. He did well at Arsenal. But there wasn't all the pomp and celebration that you had when Martin O'Neill joined, if you remember the car park at Villa Park.
Yeah.
Whereas now, people are starting to take notice, and it's only taken 20 games and countless records that he's broken. I mean, scoring in 20 games on the trot straight away is fantastic for us. He's got players like Tyrone Mings playing above any level that we thought he could. We all knew Tyrone was a great defender, but he's really got him excelling. Ezri Konsa as well. I mean, last night, there was no point in anybody else being on the pitch. You might as well have just had Tyrone Mings and Ezri Konsa knocking the ball between themselves. Dougie Louise is the midfielder that we know he can be, and he will only get better. And fair play, because I know that I've been a little bit harsh in the past, but Ollie Watkins has been on absolute fire these last few months, really. He's doing less work, but he's getting greater rewards for it. And it just seems that the decision to sell Danny Ings was justified with Watkins' form and the belief in him. And of course, we've got Jean Duran, who I'm sure will become a lethal target man for us in the future. But just going on to the Fulham game, I mentioned that Konsa and Mings were passing it to each other more than anybody else, which surprisingly didn't happen against Newcastle a couple of weeks ago, because it tends to be that those two pass to one another at least more than 5 times per game. We see it's the slow build-up play, it's the traps that we're trying to create and draw the attack onto us. And Fulham weren't really falling for it last night, but I don't really think that we had to get into second gear last night, did we, against Fulham? It was one of those where we very much cruised to victory, and had we needed to step it up, which we sort of started to at the end with the McGinn shot that flashed wide, I think it could have been a lot more comfortable. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I mean, a few thoughts. I mean, it wasn't a great game. As I hope, I don't know, there's a babysitter here and my little girl, I don't know if you can hear the odd little cry in the background, but it's all good. But she started waking up at 10 to 5 in the morning. So, and I was staying up to watch that second half when he hit, 9 o'clock, 10 past 9. I tell you, it was a bit of the, oh my goodness, it wasn't a very eventful second half, certainly. And to be honest, if I was a Fulham fan, I'd be really annoyed because you're against a side that are sitting back and really, as you say, not out of second gear. They didn't really trouble us at all. First half, look, we were the better team. We got a goal. We didn't kick on, but was it a situation where we thought, it was about not getting any injuries, not overexerting ourselves, which, it's a risky game to play. And the risk was, I thought it would have backfired when the ball ricocheted off Tyrone Mings and went in. Now, the reason why Tyrone Mings was running and lunging back was because the guy was offside. So, it's just a bit annoying that the flag didn't go up sooner. But I mean, and there was one other moment where I think there was a ricochet off Mings again, and he had to do a readjustment. That was the nearest Fulham came to a goal. But yeah, I mean, if it was a situation that we went 1-0 up and Emery said, right, we've got games coming up now, let's not exert too much and try and see this out. First of all, ballsy. Second of all, if it's come off, I mean, again, that's just genius. Now, maybe I'm paying them too much credit. Now, maybe it's just a poor performance. But look, we've had 2 not great performances and got 4 points from them, and that's just those 2 poor performances would generally mean 0 points or 1 point for Villa previously. So everything we're doing is going right. We're 10 games unbeaten. We've a wonderful chance of getting into Europe. So hats off to Emery. That's all I can say.
You're right. You look at if we'd have played like that under Gerrard at the start of the season, it's 2 defeats. And at that point when Emery came in, both Brentford and Fulham were a London marathon away from us at that point, weren't they? They were streets ahead, and now we've overtaken both of them. The likelihood of them catching us, I mean, it's possible, but when you look at how we're playing and the results that we're getting, 10 matches unbeaten, we don't seem to fear anybody. But you're right, last night it was either a masterstroke by Emery in regards to, do you know what, lads, just take it easy. It reminded me a lot of the Crystal Palace at home game. I went to that one with the lad and with the daughter as well, and they were bored to tears. They were moved to tears. It was awful. There was one shot on target all game, But I don't mind personally if we can grind out the results and we can get up the league. Then the boring Arsenal 1-0 football, it's welcomed if we're going to be going to sunny Slovakia on a Thursday night next year. I mean, let's be honest. The chances of us getting into Europe they're high. Yes, there's a lot of teams around us who have got a number of games in hand, but Brighton, who have got 3 games in hand, have got Man City as one of them. They've got Newcastle as one of them. They've also got the heartbreak of the FA Cup semi-final to get over. You've got Liverpool, who have probably got the easiest running going. So easy that Baz has said that they'll come 4th in the league, which still cracks me up. Tottenham have got a massively difficult running, probably rivals our own. And I don't see Brentford getting back up there, and I don't think Chelsea will get up there either, even if they get Maurizio Pochettino. Is European football a certainty, do you think? Or do you think 8th is probably the best that we'll get and you'd be happy with that?
I mean, a week or so ago, looking at the teams with the games in hand, I would have said, Liverpool, looking at their run, I'd imagine they'll probably finish higher than they are, probably 5th. Brighton, playing really good football. They've games in hand. And it's funny, you sent me one of those predictors, and I just chucked in a bunch of results this morning. And I actually had Brighton finishing 1 point ahead of us. But then I subsequently had a look at their fixtures. And between the 18th of May and the 28th of May, so that's 10 and a half days, Brighton play 4 times. That's a lot. They're not going to win all 4 of those games. They went to extra time and penalties there last week. So even though Brighton are playing excellently well, I just wonder, will all the kind of rearranged games catch up with them. I mean, as I say, that's I mean, 4 games in the space of 10 days is a lot. And it's a 7:30 kickoff on the 18th, and I think it's a 4:30 kickoff on the 28th. So, you know, there's the recovery time is just not there. So, and they're against us on the last day as well. So, I mean, we've a brilliant chance of finishing ahead of Brighton. Spurs, a little bit of an unknown because of Ryan Mason. I mean, is he just going to shore up things? You know, what's their ambition? Are the owners desperate? Daniel Levy, does he want to try and have a final tilt at the Champions League? Because they've dropped to 6th now, but you know they were in free fall. So a bit of an unknown quantity there. I don't know, but you would say going by recent form, we should overtake them. So I mean, so if we can finish ahead of Brighton, we do overtake Spurs. I think that's 6th. I think. Again, Brighton could do it because they're very good. Let's not underestimate them. Lots of young players are doing really well. Obviously, the recruitment has been excellent there. The manager's excellent as well. You know, so they could. I think it's between us and Brighton for 6th and 7th, and that is actually a huge difference because be delighted about the Europa League, Europa Conference. But look at this. Look, if we at the start of the season, if you said you'll get Europa Conference, you would have thought brilliant. My one worry is we mentioned him before. I've just finished reading Martin O'Neill's autobiography on days like these, and he does talk about the infamous performance in Moscow. But that seemed to be inspired by a conversation he had with Sir Alex, who pointed out that starting your season in July, going into the Intertoto, that's an awful lot of games. And if we want to push on and challenge for top 4, and maybe I'm putting the cart before the horse, but if we want to be a contender there, you know, how seriously do we take that Thursday night? I mean, I know the point. What's the point if you're not going to take the European competition seriously? And Emery has won the Europa League. Is it 4 times? Something crazy like that. So he
4 times this week.
Yeah. But I mean, really, for Villa and for the owners, the Holy Grail is the Champions League, I would imagine. So there is a question, given the size of our squad, you know, how much do we want to be in the Europa Conference? And I'm on the fence. Personally, if we're in the conference, I think we should get back Cameron Archer and Tim Irbunam and Aaron Ramsey and put them into that and give Robert Olsen a run. So, I mean, I feel a little bit sorry for him. He's always coming in to deputise for one of the best keepers in the world. But yeah, it always seems to go a bit belly up. So a cup run might be good for him. That's certainly, if it's the conference, that's how I would like us to treat it if we're going to mount a challenge in the top 4. Because what happened with O'Neill, regardless of the Moscow performance, which was the last time we were actually in the, you know, European competition proper, regardless of what happened that night, our season fell apart after that. So even if we managed to get a win over Moscow, I don't think we're going to go on and win the Europa League. We were too tired. So small squads, I could take or leave the Europa Conference personally. So if it was 8th rather than 7th, I'm not in tears. But I'd love 6th. I really would. What do you think of the conference, Will? Am I completely wrong? And I know the Irish Lions are not with me on that one.
Well, I know that you messaged me earlier in the week about it because you put that question out to the Irish Lions, and I'll have to put it onto the Twitter page as well. But for me, I take the conference, and I take it for all the reasons that you've just mentioned in regards to the names Archer, Irogbunam, and Aaron Ramsey, because I think it gives those 3 more game time, which then allows them more competitive Villa game time and the chance to break into the first team. I don't worry about the squad size because there's a transfer window and we can get players in. I'm sure we'll ship players out as well, but we can bring players in to make that squad bigger, to swell the squad, so that we hopefully don't do a West Ham, so that we don't do what some of the other teams have done where they've got into that Thursday night habit of playing matches, but then they've had their league form suffer as well. West Ham have found that difficult this season, despite bringing a couple of players in, but that could be because they don't fit the West Ham way of playing, whatever that is. So I take it, and I'm going to be one of those Villa fans who say that if we were in it, we're in it to win it. And as Glenn Hoddle pointed out a few weeks ago, if Villa are in it, he's going to put money on the Villa to win it. So The only difference I would have from what you mentioned is it wouldn't be Robin Olsen in goal for me. I'd have Emmy in goal as much as possible still, providing he was able to. And of course, he's going to be bringing more Argentinians to Villa Park anyway, he said to Ian Wright. We've seen that video this morning. I'd rather bring in a different second choice keeper. Who that is, we'll leave for another day. Okay. But talking about Europe and trying to get into those European spaces, there's one team that we're going to be contesting with who we could get 3 points closer to at the weekend. A team who have gone 3 games unbeaten, no goals conceded. Is it at the moment a theatre of daydreams for us? Or is it a theatre of living the dream? Can we go there and get something from Man United? The last couple of times we played them, last 3 times we played them in the league, we've done all right. I can't remember us beating Man United really, apart from the 3-1 opening day. With Ian Taylor scoring, the 1-0 where Gabby scored. But more recently, of course, Courtney House went there and got us a win. We drew 2-2 at home with Philip Coutinho lighting it.
And we all thought, oh my God, amazing signing. He's going to be wonderful for us.
Ugh. I've got faith. Jake was saying to me last night we should just flog him. I've got faith. If we put him in that Buendia role, I think he could do decent for us in the Europa Conference League next season.
That's a good point, yeah.
And of course, Jacob Ramsey scored at both ends at the start of the season. But are Manchester United going to be a step too far for us on Sunday?
The one thing I'll say is that we're recording this on Wednesday. The players are having the recovery after last night. Man United play Spurs tomorrow. That means they've 2 days less to recover. Now, they do have a bigger squad than us, so they are at home. So what I'm saying could be immaterial, but it could just matter. And it's going to be interesting. I do think if you had to put me on the spot, I think I had us down for losing to Man United and losing to Liverpool, because that's what you'd expect. Even though the great run we're on, United, it's not as though their season is over. They are still chasing, as high as possible. It's so long since I've looked at it. If it's third, do they get automatic, or is it one qualifying round for third, or what is it? I'm sure some of our listeners will be able to tell me, shouting at the screen now. But it's so long since I've been looking at the Champions League. But I think it does matter. I think there's certainly a big difference between third and fourth, in finishing. For where you go into Champions League qualifying. So my point though is that they'll still want to get as many results as possible. So it's not like season over for them. So they're going to still play well. So I think we're the underdog, but we've done well when we've been the underdog, very well. So I still think I just about give it to United, but I still have a lot of hope on Sunday. It'll be fingers crossed.
I think we're going to leave Old Trafford with the swagger of Liam Gallagher, to be honest with you. I think we're going to get something when we go and play them. I completely understand what you're saying, and I think that the advantage of them playing such a big game against Tottenham, because it's a big game for Tottenham, so they're going to be up for it, especially after their mauling on Tyneside. I mean, not everybody can smash Newcastle. But Man United are going to feel it. Tottenham are going to run them ragged, hopefully. And we go there and we take our game to them. The only thing that concerns me is, and this can sound really daft probably to people who are listening or watching, and they're going to think, mate, get Baz back, you go on holiday next time. The last few games we have struggled to score. I mean, last night we've said we're in first gear. We probably could have gone and got more, but we struggled to score against Brentford. When we played Nottingham Forest, we struggled against them to get the goals, really. But then again, it could all Newcastle, we didn't. We could have got 6 or 7 against Newcastle, couldn't we? And if we go with that intensity against Manchester United from the off, against a tired Man United who are missing key players, then, as I say, we'll be walking out swaggering along like Liam Gallagher at the end of a Nebworth set.
Yeah, I mean, you're right. They had a long match on, was a Sunday, and then they're playing, as I say, Thursday. So, again, by Sunday, so there's a strong case to be made that Villa can win or at least draw. There is. It's there. It's you could say there's a phrase that they tried to catch on for the Irish Cup here years ago. That had a mate of mine doing an ad on TV, and he'd say, "It's there for us." So it's there for us on Sunday. We could do it. I still cannot say, yeah, we're going to go to Old Trafford and win. It just doesn't roll off the tongue. It's just gone wrong too many times. But I'll have everything crossed, and it's very possible that we could. As I say, very strong case to make that Villa can do the business on Sunday.
Well, I think it's a fair enough point. I mean, just looking in the previous recording, I was on my own. So on that one, I identified a key player for each team, and I went with Dan James for Fulham. He wasn't great for them, but the player I identified for the Villa, because of his defending and because of how he could help us in attack, was Tyrone Mings, and it wasn't a bad call if I do say so.
Yeah, you're pretty on the money there. And apparently Emery, I don't know if he's joking. He said Emery was going to drop him unless he scored. So maybe that's his sense of humor. Delighted for Tyrone. I mean, let's go back to Steven Gerrard. There's obviously an issue there, taking the captain's armband off him. But from the interviews he's given, there seems to have been some little issue there. So didn't get treated well under Gerrard. I suppose he probably thought Carlos, if he was fit, would take Tyrone. So Tyrone probably is thinking my Villa career could be coming to an end. Captaincy gone, left side of centre back in to take place potentially. So delighted for him, and you're right, as you said at the start. He's got to be back in Gareth Southgate's mind. Although this is a very different perspective. So I'm not English. I sorry to all English listeners. I don't care how your national team does. Anytime a Villa player goes to the English national team, they suddenly want to leave. So I'm thinking no bad thing that Tyrone or Watkins aren't being called up. They're not going to have their heads turned, So sorry. That's just my perspective as coming. I'd rather to be honest. Would you rather than working with Emery for 2 weeks than Gareth Southgate for 2 weeks?
Well, I think it's a fair perspective to have. But who do you think then for this weekend against Man United? Who is going to be the key Man United player? Who's going to be the key Villa player? I mean, for me, as daft as it sounds from a Man United point of view, I think somebody like a Sabitzer or a McTominay could be key for them, because Sabitzer's been doing quite well recently. Yeah. McTominay is just one of those rubbish players who tends to do well against us and will cause problems if he's man marking players. But from a Villa point of view, I think our key player has got to be Emery Buendia more than anybody else. And the reason I say that is because of the 4-2-2-2, the 4-4-2 or the 4-2-3-1. Buendia is going to try and get into those gaps in between the midfield and the defence. And either way, he's going to end up confusing the United players, because he's going to draw a midfielder to him, which will create more space for Dougie, or he's going to draw a defender to him. And if he draws Lindelof to him, it means that Luke Shaw, not a natural centre-back, is man marking Ollie Watkins, who's not
good point. At the moment. Yeah. I mean, that's a very good point. I mean, they've always been a bit makeshift at the back all season, United. Now, I just noticed, actually, I think the last couple of games, Ollie Watkins, now that he went on this scoring form, he's been man-marked out of it. So, and because he's only one up front, I kind of more think, is Ollie now pulling people in, leaving a bit of room for Buendia and McGinn, who's now, he seems to be out on the right now with the Bailey injury. Is he on the right? I've got that right. Anyway, so, they're looking very dangerous going forward as well. And then, of course, when Bertie comes off the bench, that's a bit of a problem as well. So I think Ollie Watkins, if he's not scoring goals, he's still, he's still causing a big problem for the defence. And you are right. The Man United defence, it's not been it's not like the Fergie days. It's just not good as back then. The person I'd be afraid of a little bit, he just seems to come into a little bit of form, is Anthony. He signed, should have done much better, to be honest. I thought he'd be much bigger for him for the season, but he seems to be just about getting it right. I was just checking my list there. I know McTominay has had a knock, So I don't know if we'll have. I suppose we'll see what he's like on Sunday. So I don't know will he be playing. We'll just have to see. But I get your point if he is. For Villa, we're going to have to be a bit more defensive. I think, we're going to have to maybe play Douglas Luiz a little bit deeper, maybe tell him don't do all those driving runs. Doesn't Emery, sometimes the fullbacks will come in and kind of make it a bit tighter, and then, a couple of midfielders shore up. So I imagine it'll be that. And then we need someone on the counter attack as well. So I guess if Bailey's not back and Traore he's coming off the bench, then it probably is the likes of Buendia. So I'd have to agree with you. I think Buendia could be our man on Sunday to really cause Man United problems. But I would say, this is me showing my conservatism now, bit tighter, shore it up, but try and hit United with a bit of pace, run at those defenders. Is Maguire playing for them nowadays? We should a little bit of a run at him. You never know. You never know. I would imagine there's one goal in us, maybe not more, but I think there's a goal in us. So fingers crossed.
Well, hopefully it's us who gets that goal. And I think you're completely right about Anthony. Anthony has hit some form recently. The one question Eric Ten Hag will have is, do I tell Anthony to track Alex Moreno, or do I tell him to stay up front and try and get in behind and nick the ball off Moreno? Because Moreno's going to go running down the length of Old Trafford, isn't he? Numerous times bombing forward. But you mentioned that there's only a goal in it. So that leads me to ask you the $1 million question. What is the score going to be come full time on Sunday at Old Trafford? Is it going to be euphoria in relation to Oasis at Nebworth, or is it going to be the dark days of them breaking up when Noel and Liam had a little bit of a bust up? Is that the disappointment that we're gonna feel?
We'll go with the early noughties kind of comeback tour before they fell out. So everyone is kind of, all right, grand, but this isn't terrific. I'll go with a draw. I'll go with a 1-1. Sorry, that's a bit boring. I'd have United as favourites, but I think we can get something out of this game. It really is there for us.
I'd take a 1-1. I'd take a 1-1. I wouldn't be happy about it, if I'm completely honest with you. But I'm going to be positive. We have to be positive. I'm going to give you the negative Baz label just for that 1-1 draw.
Someone has to,
Baz is listening to this in Egypt going, no, 4-0 United, 4-0 United, 4-0 United. Baz, especially for you, I think we're going to go to Old Trafford, and I think we're going to be coming away with 3 more points. We're one of the best away teams in the league at the moment. We'll get it right with the counter-attack like we did against Tottenham. Apparently, for the first half against Tottenham, he wanted to play that poorly to lead them into a false sense of security. That sounds like a Tim Sherwood plan against the Blues at home in the Cup. I'm going to go for 2-1 Villa. I think we're going to a 2-0 lead, and Man United make it a little bit nervy at the end. It won't be Emmy's fault that we concede the goal. It won't be his fault. But no, I mean, a win, a draw, whatever it is, that's a positive result for the Villa, and that's the way that we should be looking for the rest of the season, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. Look, I mean, it'll be best foot forward, and I have no doubt that Emery has a plan.
Well, thank you for your thoughts on that. Thank you for your thoughts on Fulham and your general Villa thoughts as well. Dave, you're going to join me next week as well. Well, we'll recap the victory over Manchester United in the absence of Baz. And you never know, we might just deaf Baz off from now on in. But as always, thank you for listening on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, Deezer, Geezer, Freezer. It doesn't matter where you have listened. But let's be hoping that at the end of the game on Sunday, it isn't a daydream. It's more of a dream that we can see when the Villa beat Man United, and hopefully we're 3 points closer to European football. From me and from Dave, thank you for joining us. He's Villa till he dies. I'm Villa till I die. Cheers, Tar. Thank you very much.
Up the Villa.